noisy world. I wonder if the audio is going to come out all right. Guess we'll find out. So this one's about mental illness in the media. A few years ago, a friend of mine who had moved out to New Mexico wound up dead in the middle of traffic. It turns out he was probably suffering from schizophrenia, a late onset of schizophrenia. And of course, his case was covered by the media. And you never know what kind of scumbags, sleazy sensationalist the media is until one of your friends appears in it. And then you find out how the media really is. It's always funny when it's someone else. You don't think twice about it. When it's someone you know, then you really realize and see what kind of scum they are. So the following clip is his story, and I hope this serves to not only shed light on the true nature of the media, but also to raise awareness about mental illness. And if you know someone that has it, they need help, because often they won't realize they need help. They'll view you trying to help them as a threat. It's been known to happen. This is, after all, a dual spectrum reality. It can cause people to go mad. So check out this video.
Morning, a man in Albuquerque waking up in jail after police say he was busted for breaking into a home. Officers say the man who owns a home caught this man, Mark Meltzer, walking out of it last night. That man called police, told them what Meltzer looked like. An officer spotted him in a parking lot nearby, and Meltzer took off running, but gave up a bit later and was arrested.
And a man wanted by police ends his life in the middle of a busy intersection. San Mateo and Central is a place to avoid right now.
The driver of a car killed himself in the middle of the intersection about a little more than 2 hours ago. Witnesses say he was being chased by police. News 13's Alex Goldsmith is live at the scene with the latest.
Dick, Jessica, the actual intersection, Central and San Mateo, is open right now, but police have closed San Mateo between Copper and Central while they conduct a suicide investigation. Here's what we know right now. At around 3:15, APD was called out to the Premier Motel at Central and Solano on reports of an armed man and some sort of a disturbance. Police were looking for a blue hatchback and found it near Girard and Led with the help of air support. Officers then chased the man to Central and San Mateo. That's where they spotted he was armed with a handgun. After turning north onto San Mateo, a chasing officer spun the car out. Seconds later, police say the man shot himself in the head. APD says it has not identified who this man is.
We don't have any other information as regards to why he was at the Premier Motel, his purpose for being there. We do not know that, and we of course don't know the vehicle that he was driving, whether he owns a vehicle or not. We're still under investigation in regards to that.
In the meantime, it might be a good idea to avoid this area. Traffic does seem to be moving okay on Central, but it's unclear at this point exactly how long the investigation out here will take to wrap up. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Alex. APD says it does not appear any officers fired shots, and it does not appear anyone else was shot at the motel. We'll have more on this story in our later newscasts.
A man who turned a gun on himself on San Mateo yesterday tried to use that same gun to shoot an apartment manager just minutes before. Today, we've learned more about who that man is and the bizarre situation that led to his suicide. News 13's Alex Goldsmith has the latest from the Newsplex.
Kim, APD today identified the suspect who shot himself as 41-year-old Mark Meltzer. The apartment manager who crossed paths with Meltzer yesterday was one well-timed misfire away from being a murder victim.
This is definitely my lucky day. I mean, You know, someone had to be watching out, evidently.
Bob Thompson says he spotted Meltzer wandering the back parking lot of the Premier Motel, an apartment complex off of Central near Carlisle. Meltzer asked Thompson to get into one of the apartments because he claimed he used to live there and needed to get his stuff. But Thompson says Meltzer had never lived there and escorted him off property. Meltzer came back, looked for keys in the office lobby, then sat and waited. Thompson and a repairman confronted him. That's when Meltzer pulled out a gun. Thompson fled to his apartment, stalked by Meltzer, who stepped inside, pointed the gun, and pulled the trigger. But the gun misfired. Thompson got him outside and closed the door. Meltzer hung around for a few minutes, shooting at a car out front before taking off in a blue hatchback. Police caught up with him and chased him to San Mateo and Central. After turning north onto San Mateo, the officers spun the hatchback out. Seconds later, APD says the man shot himself in the head. Thompson told us today he learned that Meltzer was dead by watching the news. He says this is all really just sinking in.
Everything was happening so quickly that, you know, I didn't have time to absorb what was going on.
Meltzer was arrested on burglary charges in late August and September. Online court records show a bench warrant was issued for his arrest on Tuesday for failing to meet his conditions of release on the September burglary charge. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Now, the story does not end there. News 13 has obtained dramatic surveillance video of Meltzer's confrontation with the apartment manager. That's coming up on News 13 at 5:30.
New tonight, surveillance video showing the frightening moments leading to a shooting suspect's very public suicide yesterday. His gun failed repeatedly when he tried to shoot somebody else, but it worked just fine when he shot himself in the middle of San Mateo. News 13's Alex Goldsmith is live on Central where it all began. Alex?
Dick, it all started here at the Premier Motel Apartments and ended just 15 blocks away. The apartment manager here crossed paths with an armed man minutes before he committed suicide. Today, that manager shared his story and the video.
This is definitely my lucky day.
Apartment manager Bob Thompson's crazy day started yesterday afternoon when he saw a strange man wandering outside of this apartment.
Turns out he wanted to get into one of the rooms and said that he had lived here and wanted to get in to get his things out.
Police identify the man as 41-year-old Mark Meltzer. Thompson told him to leave. But a surveillance video shows Meltzer came back a little before 3 and then searches the main apartment office. He doesn't find anything and sits on the couch, waiting. A repairman and his wife spot Meltzer and Thompson confronts him.
I pulled his arm out thinking he had stolen something in the office and he had a gun in his hand.
Thompson, the repairman, and his wife retreat into a hallway and start calling police. Meltzer is right behind.
He followed us, stepped into the room and pointed the gun at my chest and pulled the trigger.
The gun went click, but didn't fire. Meltzer backs up and Thompson shuts the door. Meltzer, appearing frustrated, walks away. Minutes later, cameras spot him trying to get into the office again, then shooting the gas cap of a car in the parking lot. Police track him down, driving a blue hatchback, and chase him to San Mateo and Central. That's where APD says he put the gun to his head and killed himself. Thompson says he knows how close he came to dying yesterday, but says it hasn't sunk in yet.
It was just an absolute surprise. I mean, everything kind of happened so quickly that you really didn't have a chance to think about it or absorb it.
APD says its officers did not have to fire any shots in this case. It's unclear what connection, if any, Meltzer had to this apartment complex. Back to you, Dick.
Okay, Alex, it appears Meltzer moved here from New York some time ago. He has traffic charges here in Bernalillo County dating back to 1999 and a burglary charge from just this last August. A bench warrant had been issued Tuesday, for his arrest because he had violated conditions of release on that case.
Albuquerque 911, operator 4491, where is your emergency?
Fucking do it and I'll shoot. I'm not fucking kidding.
Hello?
Tonight we have the incredible detailed account of the terrifying moments when a man tried to kill a motel manager, then took his own life on a busy Albuquerque street. We have the 911 calls from eyewitnesses. Maria Guerrero is live right now near Central and Solano with the story. Maria.
Yeah, this all happened here at the Premier Motel on Central Avenue. It ended further down the road here. Now, when you see it is one thing, but when you hear that call for help, it really shows you how all of this almost came close to being a real tragedy. The images are chilling. Mark Meltzer is sitting in this motel lobby when he suddenly pulls a gun on manager Bob Thompson. Surveillance video captured the moments that followed last Wednesday, and now we hear a terrified eyewitness calling for help, all while staring down the barrel of a gun.
Albuquerque 911, operator, is your emergency?
Do it and I'll shoot. I'm not.
Hello?
Help with the Premier Motel. This guy with a gun here.
What's the address?
3820 Central, Premier Motel.
That's motel worker Craig Warwick on the phone as Meltzer follows him, his wife, and Thompson into a room.
And without saying a word, just pointed the gun at my chest and pulled the trigger.
Luckily, the gun didn't fire.
He doesn't live here. He doesn't live here. He broke a window trying to break into a room.
Friends say Meltzer had become extremely paranoid. He didn't want to stay at his home because he was afraid of it.
I heard a gunshot.
Okay. Get down, okay? I need you guys to get underneath the desk there.
As more shots are fired, other people call 911.
I was just about to leave the laundromat, and I thought I heard a gunshot, and I turned around, and I saw this guy's got a gun.
Meltzer then drives down near the intersection of Central and San Mateo with police in pursuit.
Yeah, my vehicle stopped in traffic. He's got looks like a gun to his forehead.
This time, his gun works.
They hit the car, stand by. Okay, shots fired. Subject is 43-1.
Friends tell us Meltzer was actually fine up until 6 months ago when he became a paranoid schizophrenic. They did offer to help him out. He did not want help. We do have all of those calls on our website, KOB.com, for you if you want to take a listen at them. Just go under 4 links. Reporting live on Central, Maria Guerrero, KOB Eyewitness News 4.
We have new details, strange details, about the man who killed himself yesterday after a police chase. Before he committed suicide, he nearly murdered a motel clerk.
Joe V. Hill has some shocking video of that incident, and only on 4, he talks to one of his friends about the man's psychological problems. Joe.
Well, some of Mark Meltzer's friends told me tonight they do not want people to think he's always been this crazed killer-like person. They say he was basically fine up until about 6 months ago when a mental illness turned him into someone else.
He was a very generous, very kind person, very playful sense of humor.
Todd Jacobson has known Mark Meltzer for about 12 years. Well, really only about 11 and a half. He says the last 6 months, Meltzer was not that generous, kind person he remembers. He says his friend ended up becoming a paranoid schizophrenic. Meltzer owned a home near Lomas in Washington, but wasn't living there anymore because he was afraid of it.
He thought people were trying to kill him. So he thought at one point he thought someone had sabotaged his furnace so that it would explode. He would see things that you wouldn't see. He would see people and creatures in his house.
Without saying a word, just pointed the gun at my chest and pulled the trigger.
Premier Motel manager Bob Thompson witnessed what Mark Meltzer had become. This is motel surveillance video of Meltzer pointing a gun at him on Wednesday.
You know, everything was happening so quickly that you almost didn't have a chance to even absorb what was going on. And, you know, so when he pulled the trigger, the gun just clipped, misfired, and evidently the clip wasn't in all the way. And so he was fiddling, trying to put the clip in presumably to shoot again, and we were able to kind of push the door closed on him and lock the door.
Meltzer then ran from police and shot and killed himself on San Mateo. Jacobson says many friends tried to help him but couldn't, saying his brain simply wasn't working anymore.
He didn't believe he could be helped. He believed he was contagious, so he would avoid spending time with people he knew because he was afraid he would cast his disease on us.
He hopes all of this raises awareness about people with mental illnesses.
Just driving down here tonight, I drove by a man on the street corner howling at the moon and screaming about some delusion he was having, and it made me feel some compassion for a lot of people out there who are suffering on the streets with these diseases, and their lives they suffer, and they don't end well very often.
Jacobson says adults have rights and they simply couldn't go out and have police arrest their friend. And he says they just weren't able to find the resources to help him. Back to you, Nicole.
All right.